in a neighborhood far removed from the glitzy lights of fame. Jamal Robert was just another young man with dreams too big for his environment. Born into poverty and raised in a community plagued by violence, Jamal's early life was nothing short of a struggle. The streets, where survival often took precedence over dreams, shaped the man he would become, but they did not define him. From a young age, Jamal realized that music was his escape. It wasn't just a hobby, it was his lifeline. While many kids in his neighborhood had their futures dictated by the circumstances of their birth, Jamal found solace in the one thing that could transcend the limitations around him: his voice. He wasn't just singing, he was telling a story of resilience, of fighting against the odds, and of holding on to hope when everything seemed stacked against him. For Jamal, music wasn't just an art, it was the pathway out of the hardship he faced. In every note he sang, he poured his pain, his frustration, and his determination to rise above it all. Through music, Jamal found his voice, literally and figuratively, using it to speak for those who felt forgotten by the world around them. As Jamal's talent began to surface, it wasn't just about the music, it was about the message he carried. While others may have seen the violence and poverty around him, Jamal saw the potential for something greater. And that was just the beginning of his journey. When Jamal Robert first stepped onto the stage of American Idol, few could have predicted the impact his presence would have. For many, it was just another hopeful contestant, but for Jamal, it was a lifeline. His chance to rise above the struggles that had defined his life for so long. From the moment he opened his mouth, it was clear that Jamal was no ordinary contestant. His voice carried raw emotion and vulnerability that struck a chord with not only the judges, but also millions of viewers at home. What set Jamal apart wasn't just his incredible talent. It was a story he told through every performance. Each song was more than just a melody. It was a glimpse into his soul, a reflection of the pain, the perseverance, and the dreams of a young man determined to make something beautiful out of his difficult past. His voice became the instrument of his escape, and his performances were filled with a depth that went beyond technical skill. The audience fell in love with Jamal not just because of his singing, but because of the person he was, the humble young man from a broken neighborhood who refused to let his circumstances define him. As he advanced through each round of the competition, it was clear that he wasn't just competing for a title. He was competing for a future, for a chance at a life he had long been denied. But as his star began to rise, the question everyone was asking was, could Jamal handle the intense pressure that came with sudden fame? Could his past, filled with struggles and heartache, be left behind as he faced the bright lights of national television? As Jamal Roberts' star continued to shine on American Idol, few could see the darkness lurking beneath the surface. While his performances captivated millions behind the scenes, he was battling struggles far more complex than the competition itself. Fame, while often seen as the ultimate reward for an artist, came with its own set of challenges. Challenges Jamal wasn't prepared for. Beneath the polished smile and flawless performances, Jamal was facing anxiety and self-doubt. The pressure to perform at his best week after week was overwhelming, and the weight of public expectation began to take its toll. The spotlight, once a symbol of hope, was now a constant reminder of the mental and emotional strain that came with being constantly watched and judged. Despite his determination to push forward, Jamal struggled to reconcile his past trauma with the bright future that seemed just within reach. For Jamal, the hardest part was the isolation that came with fame. Behind the applause, there was a young man grappling with the fear of not being enough. Not for the judges, not for the fans, and perhaps most painfully, not for himself. His public image, that of a confident and charismatic young man, couldn't hide the inner turmoil he was experiencing. Yet he kept his battles largely invisible, refusing to let anyone see the emotional scars that ran deeper than any song could express. This contrast between the hopeful dreamer the world adored and the vulnerable young man fighting to stay afloat became more and more apparent as the competition went on. The reality of Jamal's internal struggles was hidden from the public eye, but the toll was starting to show. What started as a dream come true was slowly turning into a nightmare as Jamal Roberts' journey on American Idol progressed. So did the weight of expectations, both from the public and himself. What had started as a dream now felt like a heavy burden. The world saw him as a rising star, a young man with a voice capable of changing lives. But for Jamal, each round of applause only amplified the pressure that was quietly chipping away at his spirit. The constant scrutiny, the never-ending need to perform at his best, and the growing media attention began to wear him down. Jamal, once the confident young man who could captivate audiences with a single note, now found himself battling with a constant sense of doubt. The journey to stardom was supposed to be a celebration of his talent, yet the pressure to maintain an image of perfection slowly became unbearable. Behind the bright lights and cheering crowds, Jamal was grappling with the exhaustion of trying to keep his emotions in check. The anxiety he had tried so hard to suppress began to rise to the surface. The joy of performing was now clouded by the fear of falling short. Even his closest friends noticed a change. The young man who once exuded charm and energy began withdrawing, his bright smile now reserved only for the stage. The internal conflict Jamal faced was not one that could be seen by his millions of fans. The public didn't see the quiet nights filled with uncertainty or the moments of isolation when the applause faded. They didn't know that Jamal was fighting against something far more dangerous than the competition itself, the weight of his own expectations and the fear that he might not be able to live up to them. As Jamal Roberts advanced deeper into American Idol, the cracks in his emotional armor became more apparent. The bright lights that had once been a symbol of hope now felt like an inescapable cage. Despite his stellar performances, something was changing. The pressure of fame, the anxiety, and the weight of expectations were beginning to take a toll that even Jamal's remarkable resilience couldn't hide. Behind the scenes, friends and family began to notice subtle shifts in Jamal's behavior. The man who had once been the life of the party was now quieter, more withdrawn, and emotionally distant. His social media posts grew less frequent, and when he did share something, it was cryptic, nothing like the hopeful, confident persona fans had come to know and love. The audience saw only the polished, confident performer on stage, but the real Jamal was slipping further away. Rumors about his mental health began to swirl, with some fans speculating that the intense scrutiny of fame was taking its toll. But Jamal remained silent. Despite the outpouring of love and support from his fans, he kept his struggles hidden. It was a stark reminder that even those who appear to have it all can suffer in silence. His emotional withdrawal wasn't just a sign of stress. It was a cry for help, a sign that the pressures of fame and the unresolved pain from his past were catching up with him. This was the turning point in Jamal's story, the moment when it became clear that fame wasn't the cure for his struggles. It was part of the problem. And as the media started to pry into his personal life, the question everyone was asking was, would Jamal be able to weather the storm, or would the weight of his invisible battles finally break him? The news that Jamal Roberts had been hospitalized after a mental health crisis shocked fans, fellow artists, and the entire music community. How could someone who had been on the verge of stardom, a young man with so much potential, fall so hard, so fast? The revelation shattered the illusion that fame equates to happiness or stability. It served as a wake-up call not just for Jamal's supporters, but for everyone who had overlooked the hidden struggles that come with life in the spotlight. Jamal's hospitalization marked a turning point in his story, highlighting the harsh reality that fame cannot shield anyone from the complexities of mental health. The support that flooded in from fans, other musicians, and mental health advocates was overwhelming. It was a powerful reminder that while we celebrate artists for their talent, we often fail to recognize the emotional burdens they carry behind closed doors. Despite the outpouring of love, Jamal's road to recovery was uncertain. Mental health is a journey with no clear end, and for someone like Jamal, who had been taught to hide his vulnerabilities for so long, the path to healing would be anything but easy. The public's reaction was filled with empathy, but it also brought to light a conversation that many had been avoiding: the need for better mental health support in the entertainment industry. Jamal's story moved beyond his music. It became a symbol of resilience, not just for his fans, but for anyone who has struggled in silence. The tragedy of his situation became a catalyst for greater awareness, urging society to rethink how it treats those who entertain and inspire millions while silently battling their own demons. In the aftermath of Jamal Roberts' hospitalization, his story took on a new significance. His journey, which once seemed like a simple tale of a young man rising to fame, became something much more profound. It was a powerful lesson about the fragility of mental health and the importance of compassion, not just for those who entertain us, but for everyone battling invisible struggles. Jamal's story became a call to action. It was a reminder that fame doesn't protect anyone from pain, and that reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. His legacy is not just about the music he created or the moments he shared on stage. It's about the conversation his struggle sparked, one that challenges the way we view mental health, especially in the entertainment industry. In the wake of his crisis, Jamal's fans rallied around him, creating a wave of support that transcended the typical admiration for a celebrity. Fellow artists opened up about their own struggles, breaking the silence around mental health in a way that was both powerful and necessary. Jamal became a symbol of resilience, showing the world that it's okay to not be okay and that healing is a journey, not a destination. But Jamal's story is also a cautionary tale, one that calls us to look beyond the surface, to listen without judgment, and to recognize that the brightest stars sometimes burn the fastest. His story urges us all to be kinder, more understanding, and more supportive of those who may be silently fighting battles we cannot see. As we reflect on Jamal Roberts' journey, we are left with a powerful message. No one is truly alone. And sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is to reach out